Well, hello everyone. This is Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child and Homeschool Superheroes, and I'm excited to be with you another time today. What I want to talk to you about today is getting rid of the drama in your home and your homeschool. And it seems that usually when I ask this question, the drama tends to come from the kids, and that wasn't really my intention and what I had planned, but I am going to change a little bit about what I plan to talk about today because there were so many responses from the previous post about sibling rivalry arguments, that type of thing. So this isn't going to be all about sibling arguments. What I'd like to do really is actually talk to the moms and talk about you and your heart and whether you're ready to actually work with the kids. So let's do that before we get started. Oh, there it is. I forgot this morning, but some of y'all are new to me, so I just like to always introduce my family just so you know who we are. There we go. So these are my kids. This is Ashley, our oldest. She is married to Jesse. Some of you are all like, yeah, I've heard all this before. She is married. They have Faith and Elizabeth. I actually got to go spend Tuesday with them, and we went on a nature walk. We looked for different colors. We couldn't find anything purple, so Faith took off her purple socks and gave one to her sister, and she kept one and put it in the bag because the bag was what they were collecting everything in. Gentry is our middle daughter. She's married to Andrew, and they have Landry, who is just toddling around and getting everything because she's not like that anymore. She's over 1. And then Hunter is the baby of the family, and he told me last night, Mom, I'm taking a Sabbath tomorrow. That doesn't mean not work, or that means like he should go spend the day with Jesus. And I'm always encouraged when I hear that because I don't know that I do spend time with Jesus, but that isn't always what I do. But anyway, that was encouraging. Let's talk about drama. I'd like to talk a little bit to moms, and then I'm going to talk about the sibling arguing after that. There are 2 things that I like to try to remind moms. One of them is relax. We get so worked up about, are we teaching them enough? Are we going over all the right subjects? Are we doing this, that, and the other? And I would like to suggest that sometimes what we are doing is we work ourselves up, and I know what my freebie, I will put that on here later, but I have a free ebook, Don't Worry Prayers, and they are all verses that you can pray when you're worried about something. And a lot of y'all shared from your heart what you're worried about, and I really appreciate that. But some of our worry leads to the drama in our home. And so what I would like to encourage you to do is relax, take a breath, and then focus on Jesus. The other thing I would encourage you to do is quit comparing. And I will say the worst thing to help us with is this little thing. There we go. I'm not left-handed, so I can't figure out which way to do it. We compare because we've got all this stuff on Facebook, even in this group itself. Great group, lots of good information. I thank Heather that she's pulled all this together, but it can be really intimidating. Or we put so much pressure on ourselves that we have to do everything. That's what I was like. I felt like I needed to do everything. I wanted my kids to have every experience possible. If you're ever around me at Christmas time, I share the story about how I wanted to do every Christmas activity, and it drove Steve crazy. Excuse me. And within a few years, I realized all he really wanted to do was stay home and spend time with our kids in the evening when he got home from work. And so I had to completely rethink what I was doing. And so let's use Christmas for an example, and then take the ideas that I'm going to share with you and apply that to homeschool. So what I ended up doing was saying, okay, then we'll do, I think it was two activities outside our home. The rest of the time, we were going to do things as a family. We were going to roast marshmallows over the fire. We were going to read books at night. We were going to enjoy each other. So when it comes to homeschooling, I think you can take the same thing. Maybe you are adding all these extra activities that aren't necessary. Your kids don't care. You're stressing out. You're totally overwhelmed. Go back and think about what is most important and focus on that. And whatever is most important, then go ahead and focus on maybe finding some fun activities in that realm. So, and then quit comparing to everyone else. Your kids are different than anyone else's kids. And you know your kids better than anyone else does. You know your kids better than the public schools. I mean, let's face it, you do. And so just because a public school is doing something doesn't mean that is what you have to do. Just because a private school is doing something, or just because your sister or your best friend is doing a particular subject area doesn't mean you need to. You need to really evaluate what is best for you and get rid of all the extra. One thing I would encourage you is, if you want to have these extra activities, keep a list, and when there's time and you're not stressed out, pick one of them and do it. And then maybe 2 weeks later, oh my gosh, we've got a whole free afternoon. Let's have a science experiment. Let's make the volcano, or whatever it is. And let's do something fun. I think that can really reduce. So quit comparing, relax, take a deep breath. And then the other thing I want to share, and then I'll go into some sibling argument ideas, is I think it's really important that we remember what's most important and what God is already doing in our lives. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes we get so worked out of, like, oh, I wish we were doing this. I wish. And we forget all the small little gifts that God is giving us each and every day. And I have to remember that. And so there are a few things I'm going to share with you. One of the things is my gratitude journal. And so I have a gratitude journal. I'm sort of excited because I'm almost to 6,000. I'm at 5,972 things. One of them was an early dinner with a friend of mine. I'm like, how blessed I was able to just go out there. And we actually got to sit outside, because it was in the 60s in Texas in September. I write those things down. A message that I heard last week, rain, lots of rain. I haven't had to turn the water sprinklers on. Those are little physical things, but then there are other things that I write down, such as, let me see if I can find one, another over here. I was a little upset yesterday because I went to a funeral, and this he was a young man. He was 39 years old. But when I moved to town, he had been born about 3 months later, and he passed away. He had a disease. And so I've been a bit teary-eyed the last few days, and yesterday especially, because there were just so many emotions. This is our college pastor's son, and I still get together with his wife pretty much on a regular basis. Every few months we get together and just keep up with each other. And I knew he wasn't doing well. But I wrote down, God holds my tears in a bottle. And then I wrote, God holds me. He is taking care of me. I need to remember the things in my life and then the things about God that he's doing for me. So gratitude journal helps you take your focus off of your problems and moves it onto to what God is doing. Another thing I did last year was I bought this 1 line a day journal. It is a 5-year journal. I'm going to turn to this week because I want to share a story with you. So I like colors. So last year, 2019 was orange. Now we're doing green. And earlier this past week, I was reading, well, maybe it was last week. I don't know. Last year at this time, my daughter Ginger and I missed our connection in Panama. We had gone to my nephew's wedding in Colombia, and we missed it, and we had to spend the night in Panama. Well, guess what? One of my very best friends from college lives in Panama, and by the time I got all the tickets rearranged, it took several hours to do that. And I called him up and I was like, hey, we're in town. Can we get together? And he had a meeting, but he canceled the meeting and he took us out to dinner, his wife and them, and then Gentry and I. So I wrote that. Here's the cool thing. I read that last week. They were at the memorial service yesterday, and I got to catch up, and I was telling his wife, I was like, do you realize it was 1 year ago I kept this journal? And that's exactly what I was reading. I also will include maybe a prayer request that maybe is heavy on my heart, and it's really cool to see how God is working. So if I see something, oh, here we go, Miss Panama Connection, dinner with Keith and Sheila. Home to Dallas through Chicago. Landry is best baby ever. That child was like 5 months old and never cried on the plane. Anyway, it's really good to be able to see from year to year the things that God is doing, the things he's doing in me personally and how I'm growing closer to him, but also problems that were last year are no longer problems this year. How encouraging is that? That's exciting. I read about this idea and I thought, I need to get one of these. And so, they're like, I'll give you a link, but this one's on Amazon, I think like $10 or something. 5 years of journaling for $10. And if you're not a journaler, look at that. there's only like 4 or 5 lines right there. So you can see sometimes I just write one word. I worked all day, I guess, that day. But anyway, that is what was cool about that. And then finally, Ashley gave me this prayer journal here, and it's Leave It All in the Hands That Were Wounded for You. And that's by Elizabeth Elliot. Actually, I'm not going to open to a page. I'll show you in a minute. But it has praises, confessions, requests, and then answers. I don't go through this every single day, but I will tell you right here, there's one that I wrote a lot about. It is so encouraging even a few weeks later if I'm going back and I realize there's an answered prayer and I write that answered prayer here, and then I look at the other answers to prayer, or I look at what I was praising and thanking God for. I even look at the confessions sometimes and go, wow, God, you've changed me in that area. So I guess the thing, I'll hold them up, all three of things, the cool thing about this is all of them take the focus off of me and the drama around me, and they put them on God. And we move my problems from me and me controlling and saying, okay, God, I'm going to give it to you. I give God a lot of suggestions about how I think he should handle things. Sometimes really, he does listen to me because he listens to my prayers, and all my prayers are in some golden bowl of incense. So that is very encouraging. So, all right. So those are a few ideas. Relax, quit comparing. And I shared a blog post. I guess it was in my group. I'll share it here this weekend. I forgot about that. I'll share that either later today or tomorrow about quit comparing. And it has a whole video on quit comparing. But then also remember what God has done. The thanks, the praise of who he is, the things that he was doing from year to year, and then also prayer requests and answers to prayer. I would say all of those, especially the remember, are something you should be teaching your kids. Because I think when we teach our kids to remember what God is doing, to be grateful, keep a gratitude journal, I will say maybe that would be a beginning point for your sibling arguments. And I know that may not have been what you expected, but hey, if we can take the arguments away from me saying, do this, and put it on God's shoulders, sometimes there is a lot more impact. And so I really think it's important that our kids realize the reason we don't argue isn't just because mom and dad don't want you to. It's because God doesn't want you to. And he says to, get rid of, filthy language and coarse gesturing. But, I've shown this before. I'm going to show it again. These are my following God charts. And this particular one has making peace and arguing. And it says an angry person stirs up conflict. A hot-tempered person commits many sins. And so I think it's really important that we speak to our kids' heart, because I'm sure they're causing drama. Sometimes I'd hear the kids over there arguing in another room, and I just think, especially when they were little and I didn't know any better, I was like, I'm just going to let them figure it out themselves. That's what they're going to have to do as adults. But that wasn't really being a good mom. I needed to model that. I needed to help walk them through the process of disagreeing. There are going to be disagreements, and we need to tell our kids there are going to be disagreements. Your feelings are going to get hurt by someone else. How do we deal with that? And so I would really encourage you to open your Bible and start going through verses with the kids so that they know this is where it's coming from. You might even use those verses for copy work, for memory work, for dictation, different things like that. So it is constantly on their mind. And I wouldn't do a whole bunch. I pick one verse maybe a month. One of the verses, and I didn't expect this, but let's see if I can find it. Colossians 3 has become one of my favorite passages, and I think it's a great place. Colossians 3 and Ephesians 4 both have some good verses when it comes to dealing with sibling conflicts. So I should have had my Bible in here and had this all picked out. I'll start with Colossians. See if I can find it. Because he says, since God chose you to be holy people he loves, we're not just quit arguing because we want to quit arguing. We're going to change our behavior because God loves us and God calls us to be holy. And he says, so clothe yourselves with tenderhearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. That's one verse right there. You could spend all month long just talking about that. And when problems come up, you can talk about it in light of this verse. Are you being merciful? Are you being kind? Are you being humble? Are you being gentle? Are you being patient? And that's both sides. It's not just the person that's picking or the person that's being offended. Now, the next verse is one that has just meant a whole lot to me and has really grown me in the Lord. And it is Colossians 3:13. And it says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. There's the reason your kids need to quit arguing. They need to make allowances for each other. They need to forgive when someone offends them. And the reason is not just because mom says, okay, go tell them you're sorry. Okay, give them a hug. Say it's okay. That's just fake. That is not from the heart. That is fake forgiveness and apologies. You need to get to the point of talking to them and getting them and encouraging and walking them through the point of them actually truly forgiving and truly apologizing. And so this verse, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone. We forgive because God forgives us. And if someone's not forgiving, say, well, you know what? Is there anything you've done wrong lately? And when they name it, you can say, did God forgive you for that? And hopefully they'll say yes. If not, you need to talk about it and explain. But if they do, say, well, you know, if God can forgive you, you need to forgive your brother or your sister. And then that will help a little bit. Now, I understand that when you're in the middle of the argument, it's sort of hard. That's one reason I like these charts, and I'll put a link to these as well, because it can take things down. And it says when they argue, you've already made a decision of what's going to happen. When they make peace, here's what's going to happen. The other one I like was respectful and disrespectful. The verses here are more about parents, but I would say that respect goes also with siblings. They need to be respectful of each other. Are they being selfish or humble? I mean, this whole chart would be good for sibling arguments. And here's verses, and you've already made a decision. This is what happens when they're humble. This is what happens when they're selfish. Here's another one, kind and angry. So if nothing else, get the character charts and just print out the one with the pink at the top, put it on your refrigerator, and you're going to have lots of verses that you can use during sibling arguing. I don't even think I have this one. Now, I do have Ephesians 4. And like I said, that's one of my favorite passages. I grew up with Ephesians 4:32. That was one my mom and dad used. And it says, be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. We come back to forgiveness. Now, why? Even as God in Christ has forgiven you. Both verses say we forgive. We are not offended. We make allowances for people when they offend us because God forgives us. We don't just do it out of the goodness of our heart. And we can't do it out of the goodness of our heart because we need God's strength. I certainly need God's strength. I have to forgive all the time. And when people hurt my feelings, I just have to say, okay, I am moving them from my hook to God's hook. And put all those rocks and all that weight that I'm carrying around, God can take care of it because he can do a lot better job than I can. So, and then Ephesians 4:26 and 27, right before that, says, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. Do not give the devil a foothold. And I would say, especially with older kids, you can talk about the enemy and the attacks that he is attacking your family. And he wants y'all to argue. Do you want to argue? But, I mean, do we want to follow the enemy or are we going to follow Jesus? So those are a few ideas. Like I said, I didn't really plan to talk about sibling arguments, but I also want to be able to talk about what you are dealing with. And when I looked right before the video, I saw several of you said the biggest drama comes from kids either being selfish and not wanting to share mom, or them arguing and fighting. And I get it because I remember it. I'm reliving it with my granddaughters. As much as they love each other, they still argue. So one thing, again, I've said it several times, the thing here, you've got verses and you decide ahead of time what the reward and what the consequence is. Colossians 3 and Ephesians 4, great places to go find some verses that you might memorize, you might use for copy work or dictation as well. I didn't even mention leave some comments, but leave a comment here, and I can't even remember what question I put on this. I will review a few things before I leave. Number one, we have our Drama Free Mom Bundle, and that comes with my ebook, Drama Free Mom, Finding Peace in Your Life, Your Home, and your family. And it also comes with 2 videos. I think one is about peace, one is about staying close to God, and then an audio workshop called the 3 R's to finding peace, I believe it is, or to not stressing out. But it's 3 R's, and it is not reading, writing, and arithmetic. So that is actually, if you would like to save $5 this weekend, I have a coupon code. I think it's in the description here. And so you can save $5 on that bundle this weekend. I will also put a link to these character charts. And I have some giveaways. I have some freebies. The Don't Worry prayers are on another Facebook post from earlier this morning. You can go get those completely free. They're normally $7. So go grab those, print them out, and put them all over your house, in your car, and help you bring down the drama, the overwhelm, and the worry as well. I am Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child and Homeschool Superheroes. Y'all have a great evening. Keep coming back. I have more posts, and I will be here tomorrow to talk about a very specific love of learning strategy for boys. If your boys don't love learning, you need to be on that video tomorrow. I think it's around 2 or 2:30. I don't have the exact schedule, but I will send out a reminder. I know it's after church time. So y'all have a great evening. I will talk to you later.